Yeah, I was gonna say.
Don't hit the speaker.
Damn. That would have woken everybody up. Good evening. By way of introduction, my name is Matt Comcar, and I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. I'd like to call to order the meeting of November 25th, 2025. Thank you.
Commissioner Scissor,
Here.
Commissioner Bajewski, absent. Commissioner Alning,
Here.
Commissioner Buckwinder,
Present.
Commissioner Aquilina,
Present.
Vice Chair Fields,
Present.
Chair Kamkar.
Present. Thank you for that. Minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And are there any corrections?
Yeah.
Commissioner Zissa.
Yeah, I usually don't make corrections, but on item 4, bullet 4,
Okay. Item 4, bullet 4.
yeah, it says commissioners were informed that the city has 2 high-density projects, including the Creekside project and Hickory Pit project, which may benefit from the proposed density bonus. Creekside, unless I'm mistaken, I think you may be referring to Cressley.
That's correct.
Okay, so that should be Cressley. And then on item 5.
What page is that?
Now, item 5 is page 7 of 8, I think, of the minutes.
Hey, page 8 of 8, okay? 8 of 80. Item five.
So in the public comments, it said, the first bullet is where the coalition of realtors came and spoke. And it said would support the creation of rent control and would in turn, I think, harm landowners. In turn, harm landowners within the city of Campbell? Yes? I think that was what they're trying to say.
So it's page 8 of 80, and then is it first bullet
It's under public comments
on the public
and
comment?
7 of 8, page 7 of 8.
Oh, 7 of 8.
Under public comments, first bullet, comments about the number of people came here to represent realtors.
The third paragraph from the bottom of the page.
Yeah. So it's the last
I see.
line of that
I see.
bullet
I see.
said would in turn harm landowners, not hard. I think that's,
But they were not in favor of rent control. I think
Yeah.
that's what.
well, it says in turn hard landowners, so that doesn't
Okay,
make sense.
so
But
there's a
before
typo
but
there.
before that, they didn't say they were in favor of rent control.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Right. They were pretty
Oh,
clear.
good catch. I didn't,
I thought you
would
missed.
not, that should probably be not support the creation. of
Correct.
rent
That should clearly not. be
I didn't
not
catch that
support. Yeah.
part. I was looking at the next.
I thought you misspoke.
Good catch.
All right. Okay. You were listening.
Okay, so
For one.
clerk, are you clear what
That's
they were referring to? Perfect. Okay, so that takes care of that item. So with that
Can I
correction,
make a motion to approve the minutes
with the correction you mentioned.
with the corrections of October 28th? I move.
Okay, that is the motion, but before you second, did attorney have a question? You're okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So do I hear a second to the motion with the amendment, with the amendments that was made? We have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So, I'm sorry, roll call.
Commissioner Scissor,
Aye.
Commissioner Alning,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckwinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquilina,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields, Chair Kamkar.
Aye. So that,
And we did incorporate those couple of corrections.
yes, yeah, the motion was
motion.
with the corrections.
Yeah, okay.
And, okay, that's great. Okay, next are communications. And or any agenda modifications.
Chair Kamkar, Plan Commissioners, you do have one communication sent out to you on the business item you have from the California Housing Defense Fund.
That's right.
And no agenda modifications. Note, we did update the packet. It was a test for you on what was updated.
Yeah. I couldn't figure it out.
It's actually clarity of the plans. We got some feedback that we need the plans to be a high resolution. So If you're looking for higher clarity in the plans, the updated packet, they're a bit more clear.
And by plan, you mean the pictures that are included in the,
Correct. The development plans.
perfect. You know, one thing that, you know, while we're talking about the item, one thing that would really help is we put some of the street names, you know, because it's such a limited view of the project. If you could see the, you know, the street names you're referring to, we can picture it in our mind.
More
a little faster.
perspective.
Just if it's easy to do.
And the plans, your Camcar, or somewhere else?
No,
In
just
the-
in the pictures that are
The
inside
pictures,
the
okay.
thing, you know, the inside the packets. Like the area maps. Okay, so we move on to oral communications. This portion of the meeting is reserved for individuals wishing to address the planning commission on matters of community concern that are not listed on the agenda. In the interest of time, the chair may limit speakers to 5 minutes. Please be aware that state law prohibits the commission from acting on non-agendized items. However, the chair may refer the matter to the staff for follow-up. Are there any oral communications? Okay, seeing none. Anyone on the online, seeing none? Okay, perfect. So we move on to our public hearing item for tonight. Public hearing to consider the application of Masumi Brothers LLC to allow demolition of 2 existing duplexes and construction of a 16-unit housing development project for housing development project consisting of 16 townhome units across 3 buildings with creation of 16 residential lots and 1 common lot on property located at 960, 962, 970, and 972 Michael Drive. The application under consideration includes a minor housing development project with use of density bonus law waivers from the zoning and multifamily and design standards, MFDDS, and a vesting tentative subdivision map. Submitted under the Housing Crisis Act, HCA, preliminary application filed compliance with Government Code Section 65941-1. This is file number PLN 2025-23. Our project planner, senior planner is Daniel Fama.
Yes, thank
If
you.
you'd like
Good
to take it
evening.
over. Wonderful.
The application before you is an application for a minor housing development project permits and tentative vesting map with use of state density bonus law for a project located on Michael Drive. This project site has 2 parcels, each developed with 1 duplex that would be demolished as part of the project. In combination, the 2 parcels are approximately ½ acre located on Michael east of Barbano Avenue, just south of the Prune Yard. The properties are within the medium high density residential zoning district, the MHDR, and the corresponding MHDR general plan land use designation that ranges from 26 to 33 units a gross acre. The 2 principal components of the application, again, are the housing development permit. So that would allow the 16 townhome units spread across 3 rows. So 5, 5, and 6 units in those rows, along with use of state density bonus law waivers. And then a tentative subdivision map that would provide corresponding 16 fee simple lots for the townhomes, and then 1 common lot that would be managed by homeowners association. That would be primarily the roadway and the stormwater maintenance facilities for the site. In terms of design, you have basically the same comparable building, 37 feet tall, 3 stories in height, comp roofing, stucco and stone veneer cladding, and 3 different color schemes. In terms of affordable housing, the city does require 15% of the units to be subject to an inclusionary housing requirement. That provides a obligation of 2 units, so that's 2.4 rounded down. This is a side note, because this application was submitted pursuant to a preliminary application, it locked in the standards that were in effect at the time that preliminary application. Had this application been submitted today, that 0.4 would not be rounded down. It would actually be subject to an in lieu fee that under today's methodology would amount to $240,000. but that does not apply here. Now, under the inclusionary requirement, they are required to provide one low-income unit and one moderate-income unit. The applicant voluntarily increased the affordability, rather, of the moderate unit to a low income to provide two low-income units that then render the project eligible for a density bonus law. In terms of use of density bonus law, those two low units hit the 13% target unit threshold. That would provide a 23% density bonus if the project wished to avail itself of it, which it did not. So there's not literally a density bonus, and an actual bonus is not required to exercise the other privileges of the law. So in that regard, the applicant does have a use of unlimited waivers. So the housing incentive request provides a request for two specific waivers having to do with setbacks, and then a broad blanket waiver, as you were, to basically acknowledge that the applicant's requesting waivers to any other development standard that would physically preclude the project from being constructed as it is currently designed. The law also provides for one concession, which was not necessary for the project, as well as reduced parking standards, which are also inapplicable because the site's within the AB 2097 no parking area. The review considerations, as discussed further in the staff report, the city is deeply constrained under its review under both the Housing Accountability Act and the Housing Crisis Act to generally consistency with objective standards in the general plan, except where a density bonus waiver or concession is requested. And so in that regard, the standards that are found within the city's objective design standards, the multi-development and design standards, the MFDDS, are largely voluntarily at this stage. But general plan consistency is still required, so the project would fall within the minimum and maximum range of the general plan. And luckily, HCD did recently determine that a waiver cannot be used to reduce the density. So the floor of the city's density designations still are being enforced. In conclusion, staff recommendation is based on the affirmative determination of the required findings for a housing development project permit, the tentative map, and secret determination. Staff does recommend that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving the minor housing development project permit and tentative estimate map to allow 16 units housing development project. A lot of words there. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to start out with one question and then I'm going to go around. Even though they didn't use the density bonus, they still get the waivers and concession because they were providing affordable housing.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Does anybody want to start with questions? Or-
To clarify, it's the AB 2097 zone is not a no parking zone, it's a no required parking zone.
Yeah, correct. No required part.
Thank you for that clarification.
But that's all I have. This
That's
looks
yours,
pretty
okay.
straightforward. I should disclose, I live about 1,100 feet straight line from this project.
Okay,
So not within the recusal area, but I should mention I'm in the neighborhood.
thank you. Has anybody visited the project, by the way? I should have asked that. Okay,
Yeah.
so 1, 2, 3, 4, excellent.
I've walked by it a lot.
Okay. Gary, any questions?
The only question I would have, Mr. Fama, is did the applicants get a chance to, well, I don't even know what the stage of this proposed project is on the corner of Campbell and Bascom. Is there any preliminary renderings of what that might look like? You know, it's a high density housing project, right?
It is. I mean, that's very, very, very preliminary.
Right.
Really conceptual at this point.
Because I guess my question is from a contextual standpoint, the vernacular of this building, what's it going to play off against when this new development is built? And then as, you know, if there's further development along the street in the future, because I think there is another duplex. Or there's an old farmhouse or
There
something.
is a building, and we did try to see if the two owners could have some sort of arrangement. Sometimes we try to softly encourage property owners to speak with each other to see. Unfortunately, that did not pan out.
Okay.
But in terms of architectural vernacular and the built environment is really not a consideration as part of this.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
I actually have a question related to the cannery. I guess it's called the cannery. So it's possible that there could be an overlap in construction time on these two projects, right? It's possible.
Highly unlikely. The cannery project is still not necessarily even feasible according to the developer.
So they weren't going to come back to us with the bigger, more density numbers that they told us about?
Yeah, but he's still indicating that he still has financial challenges with the project.
All right, okay. So I was going to ask when we've actually not seen where there's two projects next to each other like this. It's like, does the city or the developers, work out something to make sure there's not chaos? That was going to be my question.
Yeah, and they typically do. We actually have the Robeson project may overlap ever so slightly with the Cressley project.
Maybe, huh?
Maybe.
Okay. I had just another question. I don't see any patios on this. Am I correct? There's no patios?
No, they do have little balconies.
Yeah, that's the second floor,
Yeah.
50 square foot balconies, but there are no patios
Patios,
at the bottom in the back
No.
or barbecuing or anything? No?
No.
Okay, okay. And there's no visitor parking, right?
Well, there's the public streets.
Well, I mean on site.
No.
Right, okay. And if I counted correctly, there's 20 new trees. Is that correct?
I don't recall the exact number.
Okay, all right. When we got the clearer version, I think I counted. There is a chart that shows 20 new trees, which is good. I was wondering about that. So those are the only questions I have.
Okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Phil?
Yeah. So as we go to higher density construction, it's natural to assume that the time of construction is going to be extended. Or if not extended, the impact of construction is going to be higher on the neighboring structures. So my question is what in this plan, because I didn't see anything, deals with the impact on the immediate street during the construction? And what I'm looking after is, are we going to be closing portions of the street for extended period of times? And is it the developer's intention to use a portion of the street as an extended construction yard during the time of construction?
I mean, that typical degree of construction detail is something that's managed through the city's building department and public works department. That's not typically really a scope of the request here.
So where I'm coming from is my experience, having lived here, of using the street as an extended corporation yard, where not only construction materials, construction activity, and construction worker parking is then mandated at the expense of neighboring people who are already adversely impacted by the extent of this kind of high density construction. So are we permitted to manage that here with the approval?
Well, we actually have Roger Storrs with Public Works here, so he can probably speak more to the typical expectation of activity in the public street.
Okay. That's handy. Sure.
You're welcome, Mr. Source.
Good evening, Commissioners. Roger Storrs, Senior Civil Engineer with Public Works Department. So we really try to be cognizant of the impacts to the neighborhood with the use of the right-of-way. Generally, what you'll see, the most severe use of the right-of-way that we generally allow is what you'll see kind of like over with the Robeson project and the Cressley project next to Campbell Park, where we'll let them push their construction fence out to the face of curb, generally that area, so that there's still room along the curb line for construction workers to park. We generally do not allow the staging of materials in the public right-of-way because it just becomes problematic. Some of these projects, the developers are encouraged to find a nearby vacant lot or like a light industrial lot to stage their materials and then bring them in as they need. We'll work with them. This is kind of a different situation in that Michael Drive is, there's no other properties at this point that are taking access from it. So we could look at some options, but we'll really try to make sure that what we do doesn't impact the adjacent property owners who are actively using their properties. I mean, part of the good thing is that with the Hickory pit closed, perhaps this developer can work with that property owner and see maybe if they can rent that parking lot if they need to do some staging. That would be kind of our first response if they said, hey, you know, it's a really tight site, we're having trouble moving materials around, you know, doing active construction while we have these materials in our way. So we would probably, one of the first things we'd say is, why don't you go talk to the Hickory Pit or another nearby property owner before we even entertain.
Which is great, and that's going on at Dry Creek and Bascom, where the old boat place is now leasing out the parking and construction area for the neighboring construction. Fantastic. But what you said so far is hopes and dreams and best intentions. What I'm after is requirements. What are the requirements to not impact the traffic and parking of the adjacent property owners during construction? And it sounds like there isn't any. Is that correct?
It's generally worked out between, like Daniel said, between the building official and Public Works, but I don't believe we have some flexibility in what we can do. I don't think there's any severe restrictions that are placed in the municipal code.
So there's no specific restriction to put have construction equipment on the right of way. You're saying there isn't
There's nothing that says we have to give them that.
No, I'm just saying there's nothing in the code that says they are not allowed to stage things on the street.
I mean, I haven't looked at that portion of the Muni Code recently, but I would imagine that the only thing that might be in there is some sort of discretion by the city engineer or the Public Works Director, but I don't believe there's any straight prohibition of doing.
And if I can add, so condition of approval number 25 actually speaks to this. So the general plan requires preparation of a construction management plan, and that's subject to approval by the city engineer. So basically, whatever they want to do, it's really subject to the city's discretion to allow or not.
Makes sense.
Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you.
are you done? Vice Chair?
I couldn't 100% tell why we're reviewing this. Is it because of the emergency application? Because this otherwise is a big townhome apartment-y thing in a quadrant of the city that's just a bunch of apartments. So what exactly is triggering the review? And just curious about, I think we would want to see a lot of these. And so I'm curious if other property owners, because this is sort of the zone that we're seeing now, which is these small townhome things getting approved. So I'm curious why this is coming to us generally. And
Well, the permitting framework that was created 2 years ago starts at a default assumption that housing projects are still discretionary. So there are 3 tiers. If it's under 5 units, it's an administrative action. If it's more than 5 units and smaller than 5 acres, then it's within the planning commission's discretion. If it's larger than 5 acres, it goes to the city council. Now, where we see exceptions to that is where state law requires ministerial approval, such as small starter home projects. Those are 10 units or smaller, SB 35 or AB 2011. But absent use of a state law, there's still a discretionary process. That's the city's determined permitting process for housing projects.
And if we wanted to change that, because like you're saying, anything more than 5 units, we will have a planning commission meeting about going forward.
That's correct.
If we wanted to change that, how might we change that? Because this just feels to me like we're going to hopefully see a lot of these that are going to be really benign, where there's not much for us to debate. And I wonder about making this more efficient.
It's a broad theme. I
Sure.
think we've been discussing for years, and that's probably a theme that will continue. I guess I had 2 things. Historical perspective, when I got here and started the housing element, I think all housing projects went to the city council.
Sure.
We have done streamlining to try and push that decision-making down.
Yeah.
Regardless of the city's municipal code, as Daniel said, there's a lot of sections that the state has carved out are just straight up administrative, ministerial. To streamline further, we'd have to take a look at our ordinance. I mean, the city planning commission, its own right, can formally vote to send a referral to the city council to look at it. I'll say at this moment, we're sorry to poor mouth the commission, we're down 2.5 staff.
Sure.
So the bandwidth to get down to our ordinance codes right now is probably a little limited. I'd say observationally, given the limited discretion of decision makers on housing projects, the push to streamline is a theme that I think would be well recognized.
And I think with the popularity of SB9 and 684, those are the ministerial types, so it would probably be less of these types. I mean, the sheer number of this one is making it, right? Because if it was less than 10, 684 could have been used
That is
possibly.
new provision, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, conceivably, you could almost have side-by-side projects
Okay,
and ministerially approve them.
right. That's right, because this is two lots, and so they could have divided into two, do 2684 at the same time. Got it.
Well, but you'd have lot setbacks that would then throw a wrench into side-by-side concurrent construction that they get to wave their hand away from when you join the lots like this.
That was my question.
Okay, thank you. My fellow commissioners have asked the questions I needed to ask. I will wait for my other questions after the applicant presentation. So with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. And applicant presentation, if you would like, you can make a presentation up to 5 minutes. If you choose. Wonderful.
Good evening. I'm Shireen Bassal, the project architect.
Welcome.
So, I mean, we developed the project with the owner and worked with Daniel to get to this point. And actually, I have nothing to present. I mean, everything was presented properly. And if you have any question, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, I know I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to start with my commissioners, see if they have any questions.
No, I don't have any
No,
questions.
not much, okay?
I don't have
No
questions.
more? Okay.
I'll comment that you did a good job with the presentation
Oh,
because I
thank you.
have no
Appreciate
questions.
Wonderful. Okay, let's go to Commissioner Bookbinder.
A question about how this is done. I noticed that it's a very tight lot, so I assume that the drive is as narrow as it can be. What determines the width of the drive?
It's basically because we have garages backing to each other. So a backup for, each car has to back up at least 25 feet.
Okay.
So that's determined the width of the driveway. If you don't have cars back up, you can go with 20 feet driveway if there is no car. So that's what determines the width of the driveway.
Okay.
Then the radius when it turns.
All right.
At
So
the end
it's
also.
not fire code or trash trucks or anything like that.
Well, fire requires 20 feet, but fire, because the depth of the project, they don't need to bring their trucks in so they can park in the street.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
just to back up cars.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Aquilino?
No
Any questions? No questions?
comment.
Vice Chair? Okay, so my question is regarding, I'm a civil engineer, and I work on
Okay.
projects like this, and so, maybe our public works staff can chime in, but I ask you, so the rainwater that pours on the thing has to be treated, you are
Yeah.
beyond the minimum trigger point, and so my understanding is you're collecting the rainwater and putting it in the pervious pavers.
So actually, there is a drainage plan that I think our civil engineer worked with Roger, and then that's where the water get treated, and directed to the right area. So it's in the civil plan. I can't speak up on the civil
right.
drawings.
I was looking at those civil plans.
Yeah.
And-
So there is some
and
areas.
I
for
just
water
want to
collect.
make sure, because when I do these things, I coordinate with architect very, very clearly. So in order to bring the rainwater down to the thing, you want to make sure all the gutters around the building come to the front. And, so from the back of these buildings, that water still needs to make it to the area where the roadway is, where this
Yeah.
pervious paver.
My understanding, state law states that water on every site that develops water must be contained upon that site. If it's
So we
over
have
10,000
swales
Square feet.
where the
So you
water
can have
will collect.
retention ponds or retention areas.
Well, yeah.
Right. It can't leave the property,
Uh,
right?
Roger, can you,
That's
To the rescue.
Encore, encore.
So we generally encourage that water be kept on the property. There are obviously are situations where water cannot be kept on a parcel. Specifically, it's not this case, but like when you think of hillside development,
Sure.
you don't want to percolate that water in. You want to try and get it, you know, you don't want to create like erosion issues and slope failure issues and things like that. In this case, the driveway is so large, right? And when you design one of these pervious paver driveways to accommodate heavy loads like a trash truck, it has to make a very thick section, right? You've got your pervious pavers on top, and usually you've got like 10 inches of rock below. In some cases, you see it as deep as like 18, 20 inches. If you look at the volume of the rock, it holds a lot of water.
Mhm.
And so essentially what you're doing is we're treating the water on this project because this paver driveway is so large. There's a 2-to-1 rule that is allowed. So basically you can take 2 square feet of runoff from an adjacent building
1 square
or
foot
a
of
parking lot or whatever, and you can stick it in within. This acts like a big infiltration pit almost. And so you're not only treating the water that falls directly onto it, but you're capturing the water that comes from the structures adjacent to it. And getting to your point, when we get into the construction drawings, we'll make sure that the downspouts, if they aren't facing the driveway area,
Right.
we'll run some pipes around the perimeter and tie into the base course of, because, you know, we'll have a decent fall.
Perfect.
And we'll make sure that's all tied in so that pretty much any water that's coming off the buildings finds its way into that rock section under the pervious paver driveway.
This would be categorized as a self-treatment, right? Or
Yeah.
because it holds the water in until it.
Exactly. It's essentially treated as a, you know, because you're allowed an infiltration trench as an LID facility.
Right.
It's basically considered just a massive infiltration trench. And then because of the new MRP 3.0, they're building offsite improvements. Fortunately, they're not building a lot. They're building some curb and gutter, some driveways, some sidewalk. So right now, the project conditioned and designed to do a biotreatment area in the park strip. But we actually are working on a different design on another project that we'll probably propose here when we get to the construction drawings. Because the volume is so small relatively, it's not like we're rebuilding a half street and having to deal with all the runoff from all that pavement. We'll do some sort of infiltration trench within the park strip.
Okay.
Because part of the problem we're running into is when you do these biotreatment basins in the park strip's so narrow.
Okay.
And you've got these biotreatment basins that have to be fairly deep because the water's coming off the pavement, going through openings into the curb, and then going down into the. So usually, if you look at the grade differential between, and if I'm getting too much in the weeds here, let me know.
No.
But if you look at the grade differential between the adjacent sidewalk and the bottom of the infiltration trench, it can be like 12 inches, 18 inches, right? Which you don't want people walking off of that.
Right.
So we're looking at now you got to put a fence around.
Right.
Well, if you got to put a fence around it, then you probably don't want people parking next to it. And it just creates all these things that in some projects we can't get away from. But in this particular project, if we do like this infiltration pit in the
That's a
park
great solution.
strip,
Yeah.
the park strip can look like a normal park strip. You can park next to it. You can open your door. You can walk on it
Perfect.
as opposed to like.
And then, like you said, the driveway is so large, it could actually be used as an in lieu as well, you know. Just
Well,
in
the
case.
problem is when it comes to, when we run it, when we have offsite improvements, because the state water board requirements require essentially for a project like this where you're scraping the entire site,
To be separate.
you've got to treat everything from the site and you can't treat more than 100%. And we really don't want to take public water
Into the.
and put it on private property, right? Because then you run the risk that during a very large storm, you're taking public water and you're putting it onto private property and you could be creating liability issues and flooding issues, right? We always try to design the streets so that the private property drains to the public street and the public street becomes the conveyance for the larger storms when the storm drain system is overwhelmed. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for that elaborate explanation. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
all right. If you have any other questions.
Glad. We're on the same
Can I
page.
ask the applicant?
Of course. Thank you.
So
Roger.
this is just kind of an informational question, so I understand a little bit better. In terms of architectural considerations. So the building that is where the back faces the east,
building on the eastern side. Okay, 11 through 16.
Okay.
All right, so the second and third floors of these townhomes are mostly the living areas, bedrooms, family rooms, things like that are facing the back, from what I can tell. So that's the back of those units are overlooking commercial structures on Bascom, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so the view is not great. It's looking at parking and the buildings
Yeah.
that are there. So my question is just in terms of livability, kind of thoughts about people are sitting in their living room or their bedroom and looking out the window, and that's what they see. Do you take those things into consideration?
I mean, it's a tricky question because each site has its own,
I understand.
surrounding. Like you
But
build
that
a house
partic-
with nice view.
But that particular side faces.
Yeah,
the
so
commercial
this
area.
one, we don't have a choice. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I mean, we try to set back the building but there is so much we can do.
What the opposite side of that is, if it was backing to a residential, then you would have a privacy issue, like you're looking into.
So there is always something, yeah, and there is like things that controls privacy issues where you have to, have certain setback or angle the window.
Anyway, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
We have no other questions. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Thank you. Please, come here and, you can identify yourself and let
Hey,
us
I'm
know.
Phil Indovine. I live at 940 Michael Drive.
Okay.
I have a question about what kind of plan there is to make living in the neighborhood tolerable throughout the
Construction.
progress of this project. There's a handful of us that have been living there for many, many years. How are we going to deal with the noise, the dust? I'd like to have some kind of sense of how we're going to deal with that.
Okay.
And then the other question I have is sort of on another subject is, at this density level, will I be able to develop my property at a similar density level in the future?
I believe so.
In the future?
I believe so.
I mean, you guys change, you do have changes in policy.
As long as the zoning, I think, is the same, or, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if you have a single property, the thing that you could probably develop it to a higher density using something like
Oh, yeah.
SB
Uh-huh. So I'm just
1123.
asking you if my percentage or my ratio
No.
of density would be similar or the same as this.
Well, can I just rephrase your question to make sure I understand what you're asking? Is nothing these people are doing is gonna impact anything you can do.
Mhm.
But there might be lots of other things that impact. what
Oh,
you
yeah,
can do,
I understand that.
But it's not because anything these guys are doing.
Yeah.
It's not like they took your lottery tickets and now you're out.
Well, my fear is that at some point, the staff might think that there's been too much development and that I would be limited in my ability.
We're bound by the state laws. The state laws have opened up, there's essentially no more single family
Uh-huh.
parcels. So you can take a single family parcel, I don't know how big your parcel is.
Mhm.
But you could put multiple, you could
Right.
split it, you could put multiple units on it,
Mhm.
depending on how much you can put in there.
Yeah.
These are these three-story townhomes that are really, three-story townhomes that are pretty slender.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they're putting them on small parcels in groups of 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, in this
Yeah.
case, 16 on basically two parcels.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the answer is you probably would be able to redevelop. You're just down the street, right?
I'm next door.
Next door.
You're next door. So,
And I have
okay,
the view, you were talking about the view their view on the western building would be directly down into my house.
so you're not west of them,
He is west of.
I'm west.
oh, you're west of them. Okay, yeah, there's a number of duplexes and houses down there, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are potentially, I don't want to speak, out of place, but those are potentially redevelopment
parcels if you want.
But your fear is not misguided. It's just the wrong forum because it's Sacramento that's gonna decide that too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
Right.
And then they're gonna change the laws that we're bound by, and now
Yeah,
we're bound
of
by.
course, yeah.
But in the alternative, if you like the sound of this, you might want to talk to these gentlemen. Because if 2 is good, 3 is better.
Yeah.
Well, I have my own
Okay.
plans.
So I would also like staff to chime in, for your questions, just to make sure we get the professional answers. This was all our opinions, but.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that is correct. I mean, he can certainly exercise the Starter Home Revitalization Act, the SB 1123. I mean, practically speaking, we probably built 5-ish units on that property without too much difficulty. In terms of construction activity, I mean, the city does again have a requirement on this approval that the applicant prepare a construction management plan. So subject to standard best practices regulating construction noise, construction hours, project completion expectations, but there is a practical reality that construction next door is difficult to deal with. I mean,
Now, in the future, I'm concerned about parking. I know these guys have got everything dialed in for the required parking on premises, but the street there is just jam-packed with people. And I want to have some kind of idea if I'm going to be able to have parking for me and my tenants living in the building. I have off-street parking for them at the time.
Is there the curb parking used up a lot?
There's no curb and gutter.
Well, it's not gonna get better.
Hmm?
It's not gonna get better. I mean, you're gonna have 16 units in there.
Yeah.
And there is nothing we
So
can
are
do.
my tenants going to have to go around the block to park?
I don't know.
Because around the block might have
Yeah.
construction.
Will
too.
they be allowed to park on my property?
Yeah. And also that's one of the reasons they're building 3 so that they can provide for parking on the ground.
I can
But it's the no guest parking, I think, that
Right.
everybody's fighting for the same spaces on the street.
If I can clarify, I think we provided the ability to park on the street, and it's been very helpful, but there's no guarantee to park on the street easily for free. It's kind of a free-for-all. If people want to park on the street, they'll park for free. The fact that people have been able to do that is because there's just not that many people around.
Yeah.
And it's sort of been kind of a free rider thing. So like, if you need to provide parking for your tenants, you're gonna have to provide it on site.
But I would like my tenants to have the ability to park on my property in front of the building. There's room.
All right, do you mean on the street in front of your building?
No, in the front.
Oh, then.
I think,
what does that
are you
have to
the
do with-
property that doesn't have a sidewalk?
Pardon me?
Is your property the one that doesn't have the sidewalk in front?
They have the old homeowner's courtesy sidewalk. It's on private
So
property.
again, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is you don't want this construction to result in a new sidewalk and curb that would prevent your tenants from rolling in and off your property.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Come to think of it, that's about what I'm asking.
Okay, is that, so
I mean,
I
that
don't,
makes
I don't
more
have an
sense.
answer.
Like, that's your property. I don't think that they shouldn't be.
I
Except
have
it's-
3 permitted driveways.
Okay, guys, let's stop. Let's go back to staff. Let's see.
yeah, I think it's probably outside the scope of this hearing at this point.
Okay. All right, well, that's my concerns.
You should
got
talk to
people-
Roger.
Pardon me?
You should go and find out this guy's name, this guy right here,
Oh, you're
and meet with him.
Thank you, Roberts.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody online?
Good suggestion.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna close public hearing. Any staff, any other comments based on what we've heard? Nothing? No? Okay, so, discussion, what do you guys think?
It's pretty straightforward. There's nothing that we can change, as far as I know. And, I think that is actually, aside from the potential for, parking issues and things like that we have no say over, that it's not a bad place to have a more dense development. It's, 1 block off of Campbell in near a commercial area.
Exactly.
And that street is kind of a funky little street. And I mean, my only regrets is it seems that I don't know if some of those places are affordable. I know that technically we're not pushing anybody out that is, has affordable issues. But there's some duplexes and stuff on that street, and well, now we're making them into more than duplexes. So I'm fine with the development, and hopefully the next door neighbors won't have too much trouble with the construction.
Okay, Commissioner Conley?
Yeah, my discussion pertains to the impact during construction, and leaving this at the staff level to approve or not as they see fit, I have an issue with because of what I've been seeing going on. And I'm going to point to the parking lot at City Hall that steadily lost parking spaces to accommodate the construction needs of the police station, as well as the street out front that reduced the parking available during construction. And therefore, I, for one, would like to see something attached to this that says, you're just not going to allow the street to turn into worker dedicated parking or storage facility for construction materials.
Okay, Commissioner Bookbinder, what do you think?
I think it's super cool that we're quadrupling the density of a small site, given the difficulties we've been having in getting these giant projects off the ground because of it's a big project that'll totally work out, but at this point we're, have this many fees and exactions and takings on it. If we're gonna do at all well this cycle, it's gonna be because of projects like this. Like my only concern is the extent to which this is kind of like bespoke and like to what extent did it barely work, and we should look at that because for every project that barely works, there's 20 more that didn't. I'm very glad that this one seems to be working out, and I'm hopefully looking forward to taking my kid over it to see the buildings come down and buildings go up.
Nice. Commissioner Aquilina?
I do have a question. Are the existing tenants in duplexes that are being demolished being offered an opportunity to purchase one of these new units, or they have first right of refusal, or how does that work?
So the applicant signed an affidavit that indicated that the current occupants of these units do not qualify as low-income households that would otherwise qualify them for some of those types of benefits, such as first right of refusal.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
I'm supportive. There's nothing to discuss. I mean, we spent 40 minutes on it. There's nothing for us to discuss on this. We can't mandate parking. We can't change the designs. There's nothing. Like I hope I'm incredibly supportive of this project. I appreciate staff putting together a report, but like I don't really want to see more of these, the planning commissions, because this is creating the illusion there is something for us to discuss and there is not. And we spent 40 minutes kind of talking about nothing. Like we were always just going to approve. We can't not approve it. So like, what are we doing here?
We're helping the public feel like they're heard.
But I understand that for large projects. For this, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know, the next door neighbors seem to have, the only avenue available to him to air his grievances was here tonight.
But we won't do anything with the grievances.
And that's our failing. But we can make it worse by not even giving him any forum to air.
I think there's other ways to address the process than creating a forum that implies there's something to discuss. Like I wouldn't just keep running these in here like this. Like
I'm not unsympathetic.
No, I just like
I just don't want to shut off the only avenue a guy has to air his grievance because we don't have anything real important to do.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm also in full support of this project. To me, this is exactly the type of project we want. We called it missing middle. These are smaller projects, a little bit more affordable than your, mansions and your mega projects, and so I commend them for fitting as many units as they have.
Yeah.
they have so many constraints, you know, from the fire department, from the setbacks, from, you know, environmental, from, there's so many, you know, constrictions to work with to try to come up with something that will functionally work, you know, and give people chance to, you know, own piece of the American dream, you know, and so, and looks like they've met all of them, you know. They actually have not used a lot of the waivers and concessions that they could be using, you know, and again, I commend them, you know, for that. As far as the parking, you know, of course, they want to provide parking for their guests, but by state law, they don't have to even provide that because of the proximity to the light rail, you know, and so I'm in agreement with Vice Chair and Coach Bookbinder and probably the rest of you is that it's not perfect. I agree with that. You know, it can always be improved. However, given the state of development and where we are with our quotas, and I think this is a perfect project, you know, and I commend the owner, the, you know, architect, the, you know, civil engineer, you know, everybody for the project. I don't have anything else. Does and your concern about not being able to park construction equipment on street, I'm 100% sure Public Works and the building department will address that, you know. As far as taking parking away, you know, that I don't know, but
No, I'm not
you
saying
know,
that.
I mean, construction worker parking, you know, to me, it's actually best for them to do park there so they don't impact other neighbors, you know, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so with that, is there a motion that somebody likes to offer?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Can we make a motion that we adopt a resolution approving a minor housing development project permit and vesting tentative subdivision map with use of density bonus waivers?
I second.
wonderful. We have a motion and we have a second. If we can please have a roll.
Commissioner Sissu,
Aye.
Commissioner Alney,
Aye.
Commissioner Buckbinder,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquilino,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fields.
Aye.
Chair Kamkar.
Aye. Okay, so that motion passes unanimously with the commissioners present. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I just have to read one last statement because I didn't read it at the beginning. And that's, you know, if anybody needs to appeal this, just want to make sure I want to make sure I get to that page to make the attorneys happy. This one? Yes. So, the planning commissioner's action is final unless appealed in writing to the city clerk within 10 calendar days.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you. You too. Thank you again. Okay, we move on to the next item is new business, planning commissioner subcommittee reports. Is there there's no planning subcommittee reports. Report from community development director.
I was trying to get you out of here by 8. I'm gonna do my best. That's 2 minutes. 2 reports at the last city council meeting, which was last week. 2 items of note for the commission. One item you reviewed. This was the inclusionary housing ordinance density bonus ordinance. You had forwarded a favorable recommendation to the council. They approved the ordinances, and just to remind the commission, a couple things with that. Extends entitlements for affordable housing projects from 3 to 5 years. Exempts ground floor retail requirements only for 100% affordable housing projects outside of downtown. Allows smaller projects, 7 to 9 units in size, to pay an inclusionary housing fee rather than put a unit on site. And then there's a sort of inventive new density bonus program. If you do a density sort of affordable by design smaller unit, less than 640 square feet, you get an additional unit. So the item where you had 2 developers come, and one was the Cressley, the other was the Hickory Pit, and it's working with those to make those projects work. So all 4 of those items were approved and will go into effect. The other one of note, likely for the Planning Commission, they had a study session to discuss potential creation of a housing commission. So this came out of the housing element. was a policy program for the city to consider a housing commission that would put more light emphasis on housing issues in the city. The Housing Commission could do a couple things. One is just housing policies that come through. Sometimes you see those recommend as a policy advisory body to the council. Two, at some point, we're hoping to have some funds in our trust fund, and the Housing Commission could make decisions on the rules of allocating those monies and deciding or recommending what projects get funded out of our housing trust fund. Three, we're trying to stand up more homeless programs and could advise the council on those. And then finally, today, I'm not sure if the commission knows this, there is a committee called the Rental Fact Finding Increase Committee. I might have butchered that name. It's been on the books for 20 years. It's generally defunct. This committee, its intent is if you're a tenant and your landlord increases your rent or does something that you think is out of bounds of what is normal, you first go through mediation. The city has a contract with Project Sentinel, they're a mediation agency. If that doesn't work, you have the right to request the Rental Fact Finding Committee to review the situation. And they can make a determination if the rent increase or the action is reasonable or not. And they issue this determination. And the city actually has subpoena powers. You can subpoena either the tenant or the landlord to attend. The decision is non-binding. In effect, if they decide it was unreasonable, that the increase was too high, the landlord can take that under consideration and increase it. In effect, it hasn't been used for about 7 or 8 years. The last meeting was in 2018.
Was that me?
I didn't see your name in the record, Commissioner.
I went through it. It was utterly useless.
And well, to add clarity, I went through it 20 years ago and it was just as useless then.
There we go.
So there was discussion if that should exist, should it continue, should it be put into the Housing Commission?
Well, clearly with these reviews.
Should it testify before the city council?
This was
I'd say that,
Well, they talked way too much about it.
yeah.
I was in the study, I sat in on a study session and they spent, instead of talking about the other things, they spent 3/4 of the time talking about this rental thing, which the data is ridiculous. And maybe I should just let you finish because I have a couple of thoughts on it.
Sure. Yeah, they didn't make no hard decisions. I think the consensus was continue looking at it. Broad majority didn't want a new commission to think about, and this is the effect on the Plan Commission. Think about a couple of options. One is putting it into the Plan Commission. You know, there's a theme where you're seeing less housing projects. You could dive deeper into housing policy as a commission. Another was to create a new commission, create of ad hoc or members from both the Plan Commission and CIC and put them together into a housing commission. Third option was to create a subcommittee of the Plan Commission and then have to report through you to city council. So some of those were kicked around, no hard decisions. So likely in March, we'll come back to pick up those options a bit more. We'll re-tee up the item if the council wants to continue the rental fact finding duties as part of this. Okay. And I'm happy to report out as we get close if you want to take a look at the report or testify, but February, March timeframe, this will come back to council.
Okay, wonderful. You said you had some thoughts?
Well, I just, kind of in
Before we
terms of
adjourn?
reporting on my fact that I went to the subcommittee and I actually did 2 minutes, which as you mostly know, that's really hard for me. It's really hard to do 2 minutes.
Right, know thyself.
It's really hard for regular people. It's a lot for me. So I was very much in support of it being folded into the Planning Commission, where to me, far most likely a commission to do it because we have a significant piece of our responsibility is knowing the housing stuff, the general plan, the housing element. And so that's a significant part of what this portion would do. So I'm not sure the council people were listening that closely, but I did do my 2 minutes. I also suggested there wasn't really anything on homelessness, and I suggested that be added. So hopefully Rob took that point. But I had actually 6 years ago, before all this stuff came along and after I'd left CIC, I'd gone to a couple, 3 council people to suggest a housing commission. I actually talked to 3 council people. This was in 2018 or something. And I talked to 3 council people and the previous development, community development. And they were like, they were not that excited about the prospect. So, but that was before all this stuff came along, and housing has become such a big part of, you know, a piece of what the city has to look at. So to me, it makes perfect sense to have a commission take a look at whenever this stuff comes up, which is not going to necessarily be every meeting, but it makes sense to have a commission to take a look at these things.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Okay.
Can we just recommend that when you get to March, that it just be folded in? And we can talk about it closer to them, but
Yeah, we'll talk about it as we get closer.
yeah, because I mean, I agree. And obviously from what I said earlier, I would love for us to really dig into like something substantial.
Not to
and
mention that we don't have a whole lot we're doing. You know, there's this,
We're getting light on other
we have
topics.
light on stuff, right?
You know,
And so I think we certainly have the ability to handle it,
Yeah.
right?
So you brought up something, I would like Tori's opinion on that. You said you talked to 3 council members. That's a majority. Are we allowed to talk to 3 council members, you know, on
But
issues?
he wasn't.
I
on the
wasn't
commission.
on a commission.
Right.
I was a resident,
Oh, I see, I see.
Yeah.
So
and I talked to them
you weren't
individually
talking on your capacity as
as a
any type
resident.
of a commission?
I wasn't even on a commission then. I was between commissions. So I was doing it as a resident.
Okay.
But good
Yeah,
catch.
so if any one of us
Mhm.
or any other commissioner,
Mhm.
is it advisable to talk to 3 council members, having 5 total council members?
As to an item on planning commissions, within the
Agenda.
planning commission's purview.
Yeah, I mean, if it's housing, we could argue it's a planning commission.
Yeah, it kind of,
You could talk to them.
It's a gray
Yeah,
scale.
I mean,
Yeah.
3 of them meeting together would be a Brown Act
yes,
issue,
yes, if they meet
obviously.
together, yes, if you, or if you find out their opinion,
Well-
something that is before the city council where you've gathered their opinions as to one matter, and they've therefore, it's a serial meeting.
Yeah,
In
understand.
this such a situation.
But
it
I
doesn't
wasn't
seem
on
like
a
a
commission and
No.
it wasn't an agenda item.
No, but it could have been their
Right to tell
problem.
you.
It could have been their problem.
Yeah, it was their.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
All righty.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good, all right.
Oh, Brown,